Now we're going to put together all that you've learned so far in this section in our Notes app. So it's a fairly straightforward app that allows you to store notes. So you can add a new note by pressing the plus button and then just put something that you want to remember. Something like that, which may or may not be true. And then you can go back and see your notes saved. Then you can go in and edit them at any time. And also you can long press on them to delete them permanently. There we go. And of course, all of this continues to remain in the app memory if you stop the app and then start it up again. So that's the challenge. Best of luck. Go for it. Okay, hope that went well. Let's now get cracking. So we'll create a new project called Notes. All the usual settings, and we'll start with a single blank activity. We'll be adding to that soon enough. So in our initial activity, we're going to have a table or a list view which will show all the user's notes. So let's start by building that. Okay, so let's get rid of the default text view and then bring in our list view. There we go. Definitely want it to go all the way to the top. Okay, and let's just check. The ID is list view. Fine. So let's start by populating our list view with just an example note. So let's create our list view, which we'll call list view. This is going to be a list view. And we're going to get it from its ID, r.id.listView. Then we'll need an array list, which I'll create up here. It's going to be an array of strings, which is going to be notes. And that is a new array list. Then we'll just add the example to it for now. So notes.add example note. Then of course we'll need our array adapter called array adapter, which is a new array adapter using this as the app context, and then android.r.layout.simplelistitem1, and then notes is the array list that we're getting our data from. Then we take our list view and set the adapter as the array adapter. So just a very quick look, we should see a table with nothing but example note at the top. And there we go, all good so far. What we want, of course, is for the user to be able to tap on that note and then be able to edit it. So let's add that functionality now. We're going to need to add a new activity. This time it's just going to be a normal blank activity. And I'll call it edit your note. And this time we'll set the parent to main activity, just to make the back button simpler. Whoops, the activity name. I should have just edited the title. There we go. That's better. Okay, so now because we chose a parent, we've got the back button already, which is great. So again, we'll get rid of the text view, and this time we want a multi-line text field. So I'm going to put it at the top there, and it's going to fill the whole of the relative layout. So the whole of the main part of the screen, really. And by default, the gravity is going to be in the middle here. We want it to be at the top left. So I'm just going to edit that quickly. There we go. And this doesn't matter too much, but I think I'm going to get rid of the margins of the relative layout. So that it stretches to the whole, or get rid of the padding, sorry. So it stretches to the whole edge of the screen. So you just get the feeling that you're editing the whole screen. Okay, and then let's add the code so that when you tap on one of the items, it transitions you to the other activity. So we'll take list view and set on click listener. And we want a new adapter view dot on item click listener. There it is. And then we'll implement the methods there. So on item click. There we go. And so here we want to transition to the other activity. And remember, we do that with an intent. So we'll call it I, and it's a new intent using the application context. And we want to transition to edit your note dot class. And we've somehow got some extra brackets in there. Okay, and then we need to put an extra bit of information in there, and that is the note. I'll call it the note ID, which is going to be position. And finally, we start the activity. Okay. Then, over here in edityournote.java, we're going to want to put the content of that note in the edit text. So let's just see, yep, we've got the ID there. Edit text is fine. So on create, let's create an edit text called edit text, which is going to be an edit text from find view by ID r.id.edit text. There we go. And then we want to get the contents of that particular note and put it into our edit text. So we get that first by creating an intent. So using get intent to get the intent that was sent to create this activity. And then we'll create a string called note, which is equal to i.getInt extra. And we'll call that location info, and we'll have a default of 0. And actually, sorry, that's not a string. That's a note. It's an integer, and it's note ID. And in fact, I'll change the default to -1. So just in case we have a problem, we'll then check if note ID is not equal to -1. Then we need to actually grab the contents of the note. So we're going to get that from this notes variable. So we've created up here, so in order to make it accessible from the other activity, or indeed anywhere in our package or in our app, then we need to make it a static variable. So now we can use main activity.notes and we can get the particular note ID. And what we want to do is set the edit text to have that content. So edit text dot set text. Try that again. And then we'll set the text to that content. And before we run that, my moment of craziness there, I'm still thinking locations. The variable that we saved was of course note ID, not location info like in the previous app. So now when we run that, we should be able to tap on the example note and then edit it in the notes page. There it is. Fantastic. Okay, so that's looking good, and we can tap the back button as well to go back. Notice now we have two example notes because this add was added twice. So I'm not too worried about that for the moment. We'll sort out the notes when we do the permanent storage part. Okay, of course, editing the note is not much good unless you can actually save what you've edited. So at the moment, it's not saved at all. But we could solve that in a number of different ways, but I think the way that makes the most sense is to just update it as soon as the user types. And we can do that using add text changed listener. So over in edityournote.java, we'll do this here, just after we've updated the content. So edit text dot add text changed listener, and then the watcher is just the app context, so this. And that requires that our activity implements android.text.text watcher to be able to do that, which requires us to put in some default methods, which are going to be very useful for us. So I'm very happy for it to do that. So we've got before text changed, on text changed, and after text changed. So we could do that anywhere, but I think on text changed makes the most sense. So all we need to do is update the array list item. So we've got that here already. So let's copy that down. We'll need to be able to access note ID from there. So let's create it as a global variable up here. And then instead of getting it, we're going to set it. And we want to set the item at the note ID location to the new value, which is going to be S, which is this character sequence here, which is the value of the content in the edit text. And we do need to convert that to a string. It should give us the option. No, okay. So I would go for string.value of and then the char sequence. So that should update the relevant item in notes. And then because we've updated notes, we need to update the array adapter as well, which means we're going to need to define the array adapter as a static variable, so it can be accessed from anywhere in the app. And we just need to notify dataset changed. There we go. So now we should find that as soon as we update the actual content of the edit text, that updates the note itself. So then when we go back, it is indeed updated. Fantastic. So we've got our note saving system all in place. The main issue is that these notes, of course, will not be saved permanently. So let's fix that, and also fix the creation of example notes every time we jump on the main activity. So let's start by creating a shared preferences variable to use. So shared preferences is equal to this dot get shared preferences, and then the package name and the mode, which is going to be context dot mode private, so only our app can access this content. And then what we really want to do here is test to see whether we've already got some saved notes or not. Now, we haven't saved multiple items in shared preferences before, but let me just quickly show you how we do that. So if we wanted to save something in shared preferences, we'd use shared preferences.edit and then put. And these are our options. So we've got string, boolean, float, int, long. Those ones we're all reasonably familiar with. String set is the one that we haven't looked at yet, but it's the one that's most promising, and that's indeed the one we're going to need. So a set is very much like an array. It's not necessarily ordered is the main difference between a set and an array, but really you can think of the two as more or less the same thing. The reason we need to use sets here is that shared preferences only uses sets and doesn't save arrays directly. So I think the simplest way to deal with that is just to convert our data to an array and then save it, and then when we restore it, convert it back into an array. So let's try and restore this set that we're going to, in a minute, save. So we create a set in just the same way that we create an array list. So we've got a set of strings, which we'll call set. And we'll get that from shared preferences dot get string set. And then we're going to save it as notes. And the default value is just going to be null. Then we'll do a check and see if set is not null. That means if we've got some results, then we can take our notes array list and add all. And we can add all the items from our set in one go, like that. When we do that, of course, we should clear notes beforehand so that we're not adding items multiple times. So that then just essentially converts our set to an array list, which we can then use with an array adapter. So if that's not the case, i.e. if set is null, then I'm going to, in fact, we'll clear notes either way just in case. Then if we haven't got anything saved, then we'll add example note, and then we'll want to save that as a set. So in fact, we'll make this a general purpose set that we can use wherever we like. And then we'll use it there. And then here, we'll clear it if we need to. We probably won't if there's nothing in it, but in fact, we have just checked that it's null. So yes, we really don't need to clear it there. But now we can do set dot add all and then notes, which just does the same thing here but adds all of the notes to the set. So essentially it just adds the example note to the set. And then we want to save that to shared preferences. So shared preferences edit put string set, and the string set is set. And then mustn't forget apply. And we do just need to specify the key there, which is notes. Okay, so now we've retrieved the notes from shared preferences if we can, and if there's nothing there, then we've saved the example note. So the only time that we might want to interact with shared preferences elsewhere in the app is when the note is being edited. i.e. just here. So really here we want to do the same thing that we did here and then just save everything to shared preferences. So we're going to need to access our set from elsewhere. We could create a new set, it doesn't really matter. And then this becomes main activity.set. And just before that, we'll clear it so that it's empty. And then we want to add all of the main activity .notes. And we'll need the shared preferences set up again. So we'll do that over here as well. And it will add in the necessary code for us. And we just need to change that to main activity.set. There we go. So we're now clearing the set, adding all of the values from notes to it, and then saving it in shared preferences. So let's take a look. Unless we have any problems, that should do pretty much everything we need. I thought I'd leave that crash in for you to give you another laugh, and because it's reasonably interesting what's going on here. So it's this line that's causing the problem, the adding all the notes, and that's because we haven't initialized set here. Because set is null, we can't add values to it. So all we need to do is initialize it here. So set is going to be a new, and it's actually, its full name is hash set. And it's going to be a hash set of strings. There we go. And we should do that here just in case as well. So we'll do a check to see if set is null. Sorry, that's main activity.set. And if it is, we'll set it up to be a new hash set. And if it's not, then we'll clear it just in case. Okay, let's try that again. So it hasn't crashed, that's a good sign. So let's just change this to, I don't know, get milk. And then back, get milk, that looks promising. And then if we close the app down and run it again, we should now see get milk as the only option. Fabulous. So we can now edit permanently that one note which is there. So now we want to add the facility to add a new note. So as you can imagine, we're going to go to the menu here, and it's the main menu that we want to edit. And as we've done before, I'm going to change the title here to a plus. Show as action always. I'll leave the category as it is, and I'll change the ID to add. And then we want to check to see if the ID is equal to add, which it almost certainly will be because that's our only option. Then we want to create a new item, a new note, and save it permanently, and then transition to the other activity. So one step at a time. We'll add to our notes an empty string, because probably the user will want an empty note. They don't want some default code that they then have to delete. Then we want to save that permanently. So I'm going to take this code because it does pretty much exactly what I want to do here. And we'll need the shared preferences bit as well. And it will still work actually if we leave the main activity in there, but it's a bit unnecessary. So we'll either initialize, set, or clear it depending on what's necessary. Then we'll add all of the notes to it, and then we'll save that in shared preferences. And then finally we want to jump to the edit your note activity. Now, what is the note ID going to be? Well, it's actually just notes.size -1 because it's the biggest one available. And notes.size, remember, if you've got 3 notes, notes.size will be 3, but the biggest one will be at array number 2. So because it goes 0, 1, 2. So it's always 1 less than the note's size. Okay, let's take a look. We should now be able to add a new note. So plus there. Okay, we've got a blank note. That looks reasonable. How about something positive? I love Java. I don't know whether you do or not at the moment, but the back button will tell us, hurrah, I love Java now appears in our list of notes. And we can edit that. And of course, edit the other one as well. Great. So the only thing remaining is the ability to delete a note. And we're going to do that, as we saw at the beginning, with a long press and then a confirmation, just to make sure the user does want to delete it. So we'll add that over in onCreate. We've added an item click listener, so this is a good spot to add a long click listener. And we do it in exactly the same way. So set on item long click listener. There it is. And this is a new adapter view dot on item long click listener, and then we just implement the on item long click method, and this is where we'll bring in our alert. So we want a new alert dialog builder using this, and we want to set the icon as before to android.r.drawable.ic dialog alert. Want to set the title. I'll just call it Are You Sure? And then, oops, not title, but message. Do you want to delete this note? Then we'll set the positive button as yes with a new on-click listener. And we'll sort out the on-click listener in a minute, I think. And then we'll set the negative button as no. And then we don't want to do anything if they click the negative button. And then we just want to show that alert dialog. Ah yes, and we do have an issue here. In this case, this refers to the item long click listener, which is not what we want. We want the app context. So we have to specify that explicitly there using get application context. All right, so if they do want to delete it, then we'll start off by deleting it from notes. So notes remove, and the one we want to remove is position, which is the one that they will have long tapped on. If you can do a long tap, that is. And then I'm just going to copy this code. We could possibly do with a separate method for that, but I'll let you add one of those if you want to. We set up shared preferences, and again we can't use this to get the application context, so we need to use get application context to get it. And then shared preferences, same as usual. If set is null, we set it up. If not, we clear it, then we add all the notes to it, and then we save that to shared preferences. Okay, so now we should be pretty much complete. We should be able to do everything we did before, but also long press to get our alert. That's interesting. We seem to have lost one of our notes. We'll look into that in a minute, but we'll do the long press first. Now we've got another interesting crash there that I thought I'd leave in for you. The reason for that one was that the application context is not quite what we wanted. We didn't want the context in which the application was run. We want the context of our main activity, because that's where shared preferences is being created. So to get that, we just use main activity and then dot this. So main activity dot this there as well. So we'll just check that, and then we'll look into the mystery of the missing note. So do you want to delete this note? Let's try a no first off. Now that does something very interesting. It actually moves on to edit your note. Now the reason it does that is because it's actually triggering the click as well as the long click. And that's a slightly strange activity that Android does, or slightly strange behavior. But the way we can stop that is by returning true with our long click. And then the long click will be seen as consuming the click, and the normal click won't be called. So now we should be able to do a long click and press no and get back to the notes. That's great. So long click and yes. We'll indeed delete the note, but we didn't update our array adapter. So let's update our array adapter here. So notify dataset changed. And I think it would be worth doing here as well. So notify the dataset changed. Okay, let's try that again. So let's long click on get milk and remove that, and yes, and now it's gone. Okay, that's great. So let's run that again and see if that change has been stored permanently. Now the reason get milk was never disappearing is actually quite a surprising one. There's a bug only in put string set, which means that when you put string set over an existing string set, as we are doing here, it doesn't actually work. So the way around that is actually to take shared preferences and remove the string set that you want to update just before you update it. And then it will work, it will get around the bug, and it will add in the new string set. So we just need to add that here and here. So at the 3 points that we actually update the shared preferences, we've removed the notes string set before adding it again. And now we should be able to edit get milk. Let's say add a 1, 2, 3 at the end, and then it saves it there. Crucially, however, when we rerun the app, we get our saved version. So that's a slightly odd bug, but that's how you get around it. Let's just make sure that everything is now working for us. So we add a new note, like learn Spanish. Go back, and I'll even delete the get milk 1, 2, 3, and we're left with just learn Spanish. And then if we run that again, we have just learn Spanish. So we came across our first really strange buggy behavior in Android, but we overcame it, and now we've got a fully functioning Notes app. As you can see, however, we've done a lot of faffing to convert our array lists to sets and then save them and then convert them back again, and it's all a bit messy. So if you want to save large amounts of data, then a much better way to do it is using databases and SQLite, and that's what we'll be looking at in the next lecture, and in fact in the rest of this section.